real cold, so it's hard to dig into it. The oil firms up when it's cold. So far, as I've dug down here about 3 inches, it is still oiled. Now I'm hitting a boulder. I'll check another area around here. 3 inches.
you're sinking in, because here.
I have two announcements to make this morning. Each is an important announcement in its own right. First, I want to say that the state of Alaska backs the requirement being proposed in the U.S. Congress that each and every oil tanker coming to and from a U.S. port be required to have double hulls and double bottoms. This is a proposal that has been in the air for over 20 years. It's clear that the evidence shows that the double bottom, double hull requirement will result in less pollution in U.S. waters. The United States Congress is now in conference considering this proposal among others. We think that the evidence is clear that the double hull, double bottom requirement on oil tankers in this country will be in the best interest of the citizens of this country, and particularly the citizens of the state of Alaska. This requirement, if adopted by the Congress, and we think it will be, will result, incidentally, in a major revenue loss to the state of Alaska. We think it'll be about $10 million a year, but we think that it's worth it. We think that the safety aspects of double hulls will be to the benefit not only of the people of the state of Alaska, but also the people in this country. And we are conveying that message to the conference committee, which is now sitting on that bill, and will take up consideration of double hulls as well as other issues. The second announcement is we have now the results of DEC's fall survey, beach survey. We will show you a videotape in just a minute of some of the areas that were surveyed. Basically, the result is that about 85 miles of shore in exposed areas, that's exposed areas now, continue to suffer from heavy to moderate oiling. We've got about 32 miles of sheltered shorelines, and the distinction is, of course, that the sheltered shorelines get less weathering, so you would expect them to be a little more heavily oiled than you would the exposed areas. But the point here, and a very important point, is that even the exposed areas, many of them, are still heavily oiled. So this survey was taken during the fall. It will be followed up by a spring survey, and the DEC people went out to make sure that their fall findings were consistent with what is the case today. They went out and took some videotapes over the last couple of 3 days, and you will see that videotape after my presentation right now. We are seeing a lot of oil penetration to the subsurface on the beaches. We also are seeing a lot of trash and oily debris on the shores, which have to be cleaned up. Now, I want to make this point. The reason why we are presenting this beach survey is not to criticize the efforts that have been made so far. The point is to show the amount of work that has to be done later on as soon as the weather clears in Prince William Sound and the other affected areas of Alaska. We want to be sure that everybody understands that the problem has not gone away. The evidence is that the problem will not go away by the end of this winter, and that we are going to have to return to the beaches of coastal Alaska to clean up this mess.
We've provided the information to Exxon. We will be working with Exxon yet this winter in preparation for the spring. And then decisions about what to do in the spring will depend not only on the location and condition of the oil, and one of the important considerations there is how deep the oil is in the shoreline. And much of the heavily oiled shoreline, I think that the press release gives you the specific numbers, much of the area contains oil up to 28 inches deep. So it's a substantial problem, not only at the surface, but also what there is below the surface that may continue to be a problem for biological organisms that are important in bringing the Sound and bringing the Gulf of Alaska and the other areas affected by the spill back to their productive condition. We'll make decisions in the spring based on the results of a spring survey, which we are planning. The spring survey will be keyed into the information that you see here. Then we'll look at the condition of the oil on the shoreline, information about the sensitivity of resources found there, for example, sensitive fishery areas, subsistence areas. Those are going to be high priorities to look at. And we'll make decisions about what to do based not only on that information, but also on the techniques available. Clearly, we don't want to recommend a technique that would do more harm than good, and that's why this planning is so important and why looking at the actual condition of the shoreline provides the foundation.
Well, we have to pick up our mess. That's a certainty. We did have a kind of a difficult situation for a while there, in that it was not established where you could take that stuff and incinerate it. So this is something that we're all going to have to pay a lot of attention to. We've got to get the trash off the beach, and that's that.
Foundation. The information that we have here, of course, is also available to all of you. The rocks that you see on the table here were gathered within the last week. As the governor mentioned, the video showing the actual shoreline condition, with the exclusion of some of the footage having to do with debris, the actual shoreline condition was taken, much of it, yesterday. So the information you're seeing is as fresh as it's available.
It's hard to say right now. Certainly there's a threat anytime you have oil in the substrate which is leaking steadily over a long period of time. That's a toxic substance. It doesn't mix well with juvenile salmon. And frankly, we're not in a position to judge whether our salmon harvest is going to be affected in a major way or not. That will be a conclusion that we probably can't reach for a number of years yet.
Well, what I meant is the upcoming fishing season this year.
I think that's a matter of speculation, but the logic of it is that the fish that come back this year were not the fry that were released last year, so that they'll probably be okay by and large. Now, whether you can fish for them or not depends on how much oil there is in the water and in the marine plants, the popweed in popular terminology. Because if there's oil in the water, then you can't bring the fish up in a net. It would contaminate the whole catch, and that question we can't answer right now.
Moderate heavy beaches. When was that?
I think it was as of September. Before the end of the treatment season, but I don't. Marshall knows when that date was.
Okay, all right. So
117% of the oil beaches that it is.
Well, it would be about a
is concerned.
We're going to Anchorage and see if there are any questions up there.
Governor, is there a commitment from Exxon to come back in the spring?
I certainly viewed the statements that I've heard as a commitment to come back in the spring, yes. What? You guys passing the buck there? You're not supposed to do that.
Since we have several...
My name's Larry Dietrich with Department of Environmental Conservation. Well, clearly there's probably no one single technique to cover all the situations. The one that was at the beginning of the summer was based on getting heavily oiled beaches cleaned to remove the re-oiling threat. Heavily oiled beaches, get the oil off those so that they would not re-oil, have introduced new oil out into the water and go impact a new area. I think by evaluating this winter then is whether or not that kind of a technique is one that should be continued across the board. And I think at this point probably people think that it's not a technique that would be used across the board, that what we really need to do is tailor-make site-specific treatment decisions for site-specific. Okay, yeah, in addition to the high-pressure hot water, of course, there was experimental attempts with Corexit this summer. Again, those received mixed results.
Now we'll show you what pom-poms are. Here we have piles of pom-poms. Try to break that stuff for the camera there, Bob.
Doesn't break.
Yeah, DEC or anybody to walk through here, Coast Guard, they wouldn't know if this wasn't grass. There's so much of it. We pulled this out last night, and there's just a lot more. Another pom-pom deep in the lot. All that's pom-pom. That whole tide line in there is pom-poms.
Yes, sir. Pom-pom.
Whole log jam, oily pom-poms. All that stuff packed into there is pom-poms. More absorbent pads. Bits and pieces everywhere. This is where their boom was tied off. They left their rope. And another big pom-pom stuck to it. And more absorbents. And last but not least, one of the 5-foot bags that we call body bags. Stuff that'll never biodegrade, and they should have picked it up. They should have picked up all this crap. And I found my first dead starfish. And another huge pile of pom-poms. Oh my God. Whoa, the monster's gonna get me.
Tons of pom-poms.
Let's keep it above the high tide line though, Bob. It's just gonna get washed out. One rotten dead otter wrapped up in a pile of oily pom-poms.
This is pom-pom here.
Exxon, you're really outdoing yourselves.
Look at this whole string is pom-pom. Check this out, man. Look at that, that's all pom-pom.
Keep pulling, Bob. Let's see how much comes out.
So strange.
Oh, this whole thing is. This is all pom-pom. See, it's plastic, man.
See, look, they're all joined together.
It's insane. It stinks. This is horrid.
Plenty of...
And down by the end of the beach, another pom-pom hanging from a tree. Yeah, they must have washed this beach. Here's our boom rope here and another pom-pom.
How about this for coincidence?
Boy, this beach has a lot of dead stuff. Let's keep that above high tide line. We're going to send Fish and Game out for all this, or at least tell them. Well, we're ashore for a minute. Come and check out this beach here. It looks like an Exxon fuel dump. Yeah, it's a fuel dump, all right. I wonder if they're going to come back and get it. Go up here and you kick some of this stuff in. You can see all the sheens come out of the water off of it. That's going to go on for many, many, many years. More of Exxon's environmentally stable stuff. Doesn't look very stable to me. right downstream and into the ocean. Well, looks like Exxon really outdid themselves this time. That is a monster pile of pom-poms. All oil soaked. Probably washed in out of the sound. I would hate to get those in my props. Stuff won't break down for 100 years. 30 years it'll still be pliable and soft. And that's just the plastic. The oil on it is a protectant. Stuff's gonna be around for God only knows how long. Thanks, Exxon. There is a mega pom-pom ball. Might be the nicest one we've seen yet. Good job, Exxon. This is a real bad byproduct of the cleanup, is all this garbage. Places that escaped oil didn't escape this.